Welcome to Thursday's devotions. We're starting today a new series. We're actually back in the book of Genesis, but starting a new series on the life of Jacob. And today we're reading Genesis 25, verses 19 to 34. These are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean, to be his wife. And Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah his wife conceived. The children struggled together within her, and she says, "If it is thus, why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you shall be divided, and one shall be stronger than the other. The older shall serve the younger." When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak, so they called his name Esau. Afterward his brother came out with his hand holding Esau's heel. So his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. When the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man dwelling in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking stew, Esau came in from the field and he was exhausted. And Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stew, for I am exhausted." Therefore his name was called Edom. Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright now." Esau said, "I'm about to die. What use is a birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear to me now." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Amen. God's plan of salvation will now continue through Isaac's family, who would now take centre stage. And again we have the situation here of a wife who's unable to have children. And as you go through the plan of salvation in the Old Testament, this happens so often. Now, why does that happen? That the line from which Jesus is going to come from, so often there's those who are unable to have children. Well, it's to show that God's plan of salvation and God's salvation would not come through natural power. It would come through supernatural means. And it's the same with our salvation. In John 1, it speaks of people who are born again, not by human choice or the will of man, but born of God. Jesus spoke of being born again, being born by the Spirit. And so salvation doesn't come through natural means, it comes through means which are supernatural. And that's what the message here is, why indeed Rebekah couldn't have children, and from her would come a child through whom the Messiah would eventually come. It is to show that salvation is something supernatural. Now, Rebekah becomes pregnant. There's two children within her, two babies within her, and there's a battle within them from these twins, even within the womb. And that's a picture of the ongoing battle that exists in this world between the line of grace, those who are saved, and the line of the unsaved. There will always be this battle between the people of God and the people who are unsaved, who are called even by Jesus as the children of the evil one, the children of the devil. So we must always be aware of that. And from following Christ, we must realize there will always be this struggle between the line of righteousness and the line of the unsaved. Esau, the firstborn, we are told, would serve Jacob, the secondborn. And the line of grace would come through the secondborn. It wouldn't come through Esau, the firstborn. And this is a mystery, and ultimately it comes down to God's choosing one over the other. God would have mercy on those who would have mercies. Paul speaks about this in Romans 9, verses 10 to 16. God will have mercy on whom he'll have mercy, he'll have compassion on whom he'll have compassion. Now, some may say this is unfair. It's not fair that Jacob was chosen and Esau was not chosen. It's not fair that some people today are chosen for salvation and others are not chosen. But God never acts in an unfair manner. We can see Esau would come and despise his birthright, despise the rights of the firstborn. He would put the physical needs of being hungry over the spiritual blessing as the firstborn. Esau would get what he deserves. And people who are not saved can say, God, it's not fair. It's not fair that I'm not chosen. People will be judged according to what they do. And people will get what they deserve. God is never unfair. God is never unjust. Now, for those of us who are Christians, we are amazed that God in His grace has chosen us, that God in His grace has saved us, as God has done this wonderful thing. We should be amazed by this and realise if we're Christians today, it's not because we're better, it's entirely down to the grace of God. But if you're not a Christian, you can't say, God, that's not unfair. God, that's unfair that I haven't been chosen, that I'm not. Well, listen, let me say a couple of things. First of all, you don't know if you haven't been chosen. And the Lord promises those who come to Him, those who come to Christ, will never be cast away. So come. The other thing is that if you are unsaved, you will be judged according to what you've done. And God never makes you do wrong. God never makes you do bad for which you'll be condemned. You'll be condemned for that which you have chosen to do. For that rebellion against God which you have in your life. There's mystery here, but always remember this. God is never unfair. Abraham, you remember when the situation over Sodom, he says, will not the judge of all the earth do right? God will always do that which is fair. And if people are lost, if people are condemned, you can't blame God. It's your fault, it's your sin. But the wonderful thing we see here, this is the God who offers salvation, in who the person who will be Jacob's great descendant to come, in Jesus. And even today, that offer of salvation goes to you. Amen.